Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mike's Gaming Gala. Kind of an impromptu live stream today. Recently, there was some news regarding the Atari 50 collection DLC for the VCS that VCS fans were not a fan of. Um, and that's the reason that that's news, and the reason that I wanted to react to this video that we're going to watch is because the Atari VCS fans are among the most dedicated Atari fans out there. At least the most dedicated of this current iteration of Atari, like the current company. So I really wanted to take a look at this. Dad is a joke, retro rockin' gamer. If you have any interest in the VCS, he is one of the most dedicated people I know. He has weekly show, Weekend Report, where he talks all things Atari. I don't always agree with him, but he always has, thought behind his opinions and what he says. So I did watch this earlier today. I've kind of been thinking about it all day, but we're going to hop right into it after I say hi to the chat. We've got Casey, the Intellivision Gamer. We've got Ballistic Coffee Boy. There's another very dedicated VCS fan. We've got Brian's Man Cave, Chris Walker. Hi, how are you guys? We've got 2600 Jag. We've got Jolt 7800, Operation Shutdown. And he is right. I don't look for drama, but I'm not afraid of drama. And I do want to say that all opinions, all thoughts are welcome in the chat. Please be respectful to each other. But that goes for the comments after this video, after this live stream's done, anybody who's watching it afterwards. All of your opinions are welcome here. And I will glance back and forth to the chat as we go through the video, bring up anything that I think is pertinent. But yes, as Brian's Man Cave says, drama is everywhere. And so if you're trying to always hide from drama, you're never going to have any interesting content. Here is the man himself. Dad is a joke, retro rockin' gamer. Please check him out. Please give him a like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Especially for small channels like us, it means the world, especially if you go in and comment. I know the type of person that he is, and if you disagree with him, that's okay. You just be respectful about it. And at the end of the day, whether you're a fan of the VCS or not, it is, it's fine. We can all like different things. Don't crap on people because they like something that you don't like. But I've skipped forward a little bit. He clarifies at the start of his video that there may be swearing. Spoiler alert, there's swearing in the video. And you guys can let me know if the audio is good or not, and I can adjust that as we go through. So let's get the lowdown from him first. I will pause and react throughout. But like I said, please go check out the original content as well. That would be greatly appreciated by Dad as a joke, I'm sure.
Okay. What happened in the last few days on the Atari Discord was frustrating, not only for me, but a lot of the loyal fans out there who love Atari, who invested money into the Atari VCS, hoping for a brand new console that will bring back the heydays of Atari and bring back the joy of playing video games, honestly.
Okay, so first of all, let me know if the audio was good there. So what he's referring to is the Atari 50 collection, the DLC. Atari announced this just a couple days ago that it will not So he said, pretty quiet video. Okay, I will turn the volume up. Will not be released on the Atari VCS, and they cite technical difficulties. Massive disappointment to VCS fans that Atari, like the Atari 50 collection is wonderful. It's a love letter to Atari fans. And so to not release that on your own console is a pretty big deal. And I'll get into why I think that is later in this video. But, you know, Dad is a Joke is one of those guys who was in right from the beginning. I got my VCS 2, maybe even 3 years ago, but it was like that first real fire sale that they had. And I got that package that had the Bluetooth speaker hat and all that. Yeah, so he put a lot more money into the VCS than I did. And the people that you see that are the most dedicated are those early backers. So I did a little research, and I believe, so the Atari VCS came out to backers in December of 2020, but really it came out in 2021. And through the crowdfunding campaign, there was about 10,000 units sold. Since then, generous estimates say there's probably been another 10,000. So the install base is about 20,000 units. How many people actually use them? I don't know. But there's that very dedicated core. And what the Atari VCS is basically a micro PC. The specs on it, you know, for when it came out were okay. You know, it's not blowing anything out of the water. But especially for the type of games that retro fans would like to play, it's perfectly capable of playing everything. So, Intellivision Gamer says he has 5 VCSs and he rarely uses it. I have my own grievances with the VCS. I'm not going to get into them here because that's really not what it's about. But I saw another comment back here. Ballistic Coffee Boy says Atari would come on his channel this week or next to discuss, and he hopes that they keep their promise. That would definitely be something to see. You know, check out Ballistic Coffee Boy. Again, if you are a big Atari fan, Dad is a Joke Retro Rockin' Gamer, and Ballistic Coffee Boy are definitely channels to watch. But he says that, you know, he was hoping that it would bring back, you know, the fun of playing video games and all that. That's banking on nostalgia, which, I mean, works, right? Everything Atari is doing now with the 2600 plus, the 7800 plus, and their plus line of Atari games, buying Atari Age with a homebrew, that's all based in nostalgia. So there's nothing wrong with that. But so I think what the VCS was a modern console. It's hard to call any consoles nowadays. They're PCs with custom OSs. But it's a modern console for people who haven't played video games in a long time, because there is plenty of fun to be had with modern video games. I don't think the fun of gaming ever went away, but certainly to certain demographics, retro demographics, it was a big deal with a big retro name. So, and Ballistic Coffee Boy says that Dad is a Joke is going to be on his show so they can rant together. So that'll be must-see TV. And of course, we got BD Retro Mods. We were actually talking about Atari last week on the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. You can check the replay of that out. And we talked a bit about the VCS. We had Vinny, the 7800 Pro Gamer, on there. And he mentioned that he likes the VCS as a quirky little box of fun, and he hopes that it continues to get support. But this is a hit to that community for sure.
And also, I just want to caveat this. I may get a little bit emotional on this because I am a true blue fan. I may be going on different tangents and stuff like that. So just bear with me, please. Okay. This is something that really, it really hurt me. And
He is incredibly passionate. You can tell that through all of his content.
And luckily, my show's on Sunday, so I didn't want to put out a show right away after I heard the news, just to absorb everything and not just come out yelling and screaming, which I might do today. Angry Dad might get it might come out a little bit on me today, but again, bear with me. And if
I admire that in any content creator, the ability to not just jump on a reaction and actually process it. So good on him. Spider-Boy Games says retro/Atari isn't just only about nostalgia. It's all about it's also about enjoying those type of games that are easy to pick up and fun to play. And that you're right. And that's exactly why I like it. I'm just saying that the fun of gaming isn't gone because it isn't those style games anymore. I play Mario Party with my kids all the time. Those mini games are pick up and play. So, it's still there, but you are absolutely right. My preference is to play these older style games, whether they're actually retro or not.
I'm swearing and stuff like that, is c'est la vie. God, I need some coffee so bad. Okay. It's just so frustrating. So the number one thing I do want to, I made some notes and stuff like that. Come on, phone. Wake up. Oh no, it's on here too. And I'm going to say this line, and I just want to, I'm going to be referencing this line every so often, okay? The first rule of management is everything is your fault, plain and simple. And the thing is, because of what happened, there's one person who's responsible, and it slipped through his radar, which is unacceptable in my opinion, is Wade Rosen, the CEO of Atari.
Who was it? Harry Truman that had the sign on his desk, "The buck stops here." That's true. At the end of the day, whoever's in charge, it's their fault. Take a look at the chat here for a sec. All right.
Okay. There was an announcement made on the Atari Discord, which sparked this whole thing. I got to bring it up here. Just so many. I have notes and stuff from all over the place, and it's hard to. Okay, here we go. Fuck, I lost it. Yeah. Again, folks, please bear with me. This is important, and I really want to get this out. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. So, from one of the employees at Atari, Atari and Digital Eclipse have been evaluating our options for bringing the latest Atari 50 DLC content, the first console wars, and the wider world of Atari to the Atari VCS and GOG storefronts, and we have come to the conclusion that this content will not be released for the VCS or on the VCS or GOG. We know this will be an unwelcome news. No shit. The studio proprietary development tools don't allow for content to be effectively re-platformed to the VCS and GOG platform. We will continue to look into solutions, but at this point, there's not an active project to make the DLC or extended edition available, and we wanted to let the community know.
That's embarrassing. Like I said, the Atari 50 collection and its DLC, they're a love letter to Atari fans, and you're not releasing it on your own console. That is, whether you're a VCS fan or not, that is a bad look?
Okay, first and foremost, the reason why I got an Atari VCS, and because I live in Canada, okay, I couldn't order it directly from Atari at all. So I had to jump through fucking hoops and what have you, get little pieces here and there, asked my friends online to order me stuff from the States and have it delivered here. So I incurred all kinds of costs for the VCS because I fucking believed in it.
And he was an early backer. Even when I got my heavily discounted Black Friday sale package, I had to get it shipped to a friend who lives down near Buffalo and drive down and pick it up when I visited him. So, you know, especially for international fans, not just Canada, but, you know, anywhere else in the world, I believe all of us, you have to be dedicated. You have to really want that system to be able to get one because they were only shipping within the United States.
Just because it's a brand new console, I'm not looking for it to be like a PS5 or an Xbox or whatever. It had a specific duty to do, and I thought it would be very cool to have.
Specific duty was to house fun pick up and play quirky little titles that you can play with a joystick. They had that classic controller. It was never meant to be a powerhouse. It was never meant to compete with anything big. They weren't making Amico promises where, you know, anybody who has a phone is going to want our system. No, it was an Atari branded little fun box.
And then also, when I originally bought the Atari 50, now for those who don't know, Atari 50 was done by Digital Eclipse, which is like the fucking coolest game ever. Okay, it's like walking back in time. You load up the game, the music very 80-ish. It has videos and interviews, and it's like a museum tour of Atari, which was just it's even now when I load it up, it's just fascinating and fun. You know, you hear all the news, you hear all the gossip, you hear, you know, you get to play the games, and it's just so much fun.
For people dedicated to that community, absolutely it is. Spider Boy Games says, can you clarify, was the original Atari 50 released on the VCS? Yes, it was. And I'm going to get into this later when he talks about getting over technical difficulties. The Atari VCS is a PC with a custom OS. There should be no technical difficulties putting this on there. And you can't tell me that, oh, well, you know, the VCS can't handle it, because it can handle the Atari 50. The DLC is a bunch of games from the 80s and early 90s. You know, it should be no technical problem. The problem is the install base, and the problem is it going to cost us money or not? There was a recent article where Atari's focus, their retro focus is paying off, meaning the 2600 plus, the 7800 plus, like these plus systems and the plus games. Wade Rosen inherited the VCS, and it's been pretty clear that he doesn't particularly care about it, is my opinion. I am also of the opinion, like I read things where people were saying, oh, this is just belly aching, and if people keep hating on this stuff, then Atari's going to say the VCS isn't worth it. I think that this is really a sign that they already don't think the VCS is worth it. And if there is any hope in getting them to pay attention, more people should be belly aching. More people should be yelling at Atari saying, we are your biggest fans. This system has only been out for 4 years. Consoles, for me personally, I feel like any console that's released should have at least 5 years. 5 years of support. It doesn't have to be stellar support. The VCS library is not massive by any stretch. But you should support it for 5 years. And one of the big things about support is your Atari stuff, your Atari branded, your 50th anniversary collection, and its DLC should be on your own console. Okay, so T-Shack has some comments here. So his thoughts. The whole reason for the VCS was to pump up the price of an otherwise tiny penny stock for infograms to sell Atari to a bigger fish. This didn't happen, so they found themselves actually having to follow through. The VCS was always the redheaded stepchild. I don't completely disagree. I will give the VCS credit for one thing. It put Atari back in the news. They've certainly changed their path since then. I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a lot of people in this VCS community, they would love to see a VCS 2, more powerful and all that. I can't see that being anywhere on Atari's roadmap. And T-Shack says, sorry guys, the bar with Atari for the last 2 decades has been low, which it has. And while the current group has done marginally better business, they don't give a crap about you. No video game company in the history of video games has ever given a shit about people aside from will they buy my stuff. They are businesses. They have always been businesses. This whole, Microsoft, they're all about the profits. Sony's all about the profits. All Nintendo care about some profits. All any video game company that has ever existed, has ever cared about, is the profits. And if that profit is means that they're putting out good stuff, then they put out good stuff. So, and Tisha says, I am one of the people who make all the things you all buy. So, and Brian's Man Cave says, sadly, the Atari brand might die with us. I have our very first Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. We talked about Atari and how this retro focus that's doing so well with them. It's great to do that. I mean, Atari has to focus on what's going to generate profits, and retro certainly does that for them. It's not going to do that for them forever. Kids who grew up with the 2600, you're not going to have that market in the next 15, 20 years. It dwindles. And it's the same with the Intellivision group. I'm big into classic Intellivision, and the average age of that group is mid 50s through to mid 60s. And that group is not getting any younger. And the only way that you ensure that you've got a business plan that's actually going to be profitable in the future is to move forward. And thank you, Blissa Coffee Boy, for not apologizing for them. Far too many people apologize for Atari, and they shouldn't. Mid 50s, yes. I'm actually considered, and props to my Intellivision fans, I'm actually considered on the low end of Atari and Intellivision fans. I am approaching my mid 40s, but all I had until I was about 9-10 years old was my Atari. So that's why I'm a big Atari fan. All right, let's get back to the video.
And then they announced all these DLCs, the first console war and beyond Atari and what have you. And they don't bring it to you. Like it's like getting stabbed in the heart. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's embarrassing.
When they say, well, it's not coming to the Atari VCS. Why did I buy an Atari VCS? For me, playing Atari games has to be played on an Atari console. I mean, I was playing recharge games before I got the VCS on my PC, but it didn't feel the same, right? It's just not there. But when you hook up a device that boots up and does Atari stuff and what have you, you know, that's where it should live. And telling us that it's not coming is just frustrating. And come on, don't give me these technical stuff. There's probably lots of smart people at Atari and at Digital Eclipse that could figure out a way to get them.
Digital Eclipse is amazing. They do awesome work. I guarantee you there are people smart enough to port it.
This. And you know what? If the current proprietary tools cannot do this, fucking put somebody on it and create some. It's not that hard. I've worked in the software industry and the hardware industry my whole fucking life. And we always found solutions. And we listen to our customers because that's who's paying our paychecks, right? If it wasn't for true fans of the products you make.
So, and here's I think the biggest problem. The VCS community isn't the one paying their paychecks. It's the people buying the Plus. It's the people buying those games. That's where they're making their money. I don't think they're making money on the VCS. And if they are, it's very little. And T-Shack says there aren't a lot of people. Yeah, it's a small company. And they subcontract a lot of stuff. He says less than a dozen people. And so when you have less than a dozen people, are you going to focus on a platform that isn't making you much money, or are you going to focus on whatever is making you money? And the fact is, you're going to focus on what is making you money. And right now, it's that retro focus. It's not the VCS. They should absolutely continue to support it, but I know, and Wade Rosen has said that it's the VCS is not a priority for them. Coming up here, yes, I live within half hour, 45 minutes of these two guys. We definitely need to do a video together. That'd be great. I totally agree. Totally agree. There is no reason from a technical standpoint that this could not be put on the VCS. It is, I believe, a financial choice. I think he's referring to Atari proper. Digital Eclipse has more, but Atari proper, less than a dozen people.
And you don't deliver, you're going to piss people off and turn them off completely. Look, I get it. The Atari 2600 Plus, the 7800 Plus were cool devices to have. But
they're money makers.
Throwaway. The VCS was something new, something cool to have, right? And on top of that, what pisses me off more is that, and I used to defend them like crazy. That's the worst part about it.
That hurts. I know that hurts. There is a whole community of Intellivision fans who defended the heck out of the Amico and were just let down time after time after time after time. So, obviously nowhere near that with the Atari VCS, but I can sympathize. When you go to bat for something because you love it, and then they show that they don't care about you, which, as I said, no video game company cares about you. None. They care about your money. They don't care about you. But it hurts. It does hurt.
Used to defend him like crazy was Wade never spoke about the Atari VCS, never acknowledged it. And I used to defend him like crazy about it. But now, you know what? Fuck you, dude. Okay, I get it. The previous CEO of Atari, decided to crowdfund this, put it out thinking that'll be something great. And a lot of us, I feel like we fell for it, right? And for him not to support it and not to mention anything, come on, Wade, please. Do we have to talk to Nolan directly and find out why this isn't happening? Right? Nolan created Atari. Us in that generation, we grew up. We had no computers. There was no social media, no nothing. And to have an Atari, which essentially was a computer, in our living rooms and putting in cartridges and playing games was just amazing, outwardly. It's so we fell in love with this. We fell in love with this, and as we grew up, and Atari came back to life many times, but now in its iteration now, we had hope that we can get something out of this, right? Something fun, something tangible, something.
Reclaim that childhood. That's what the recharge games are all about. You take, stuff that you remember from 40 years ago and give it a new spin, and they're fun. Like, there's definitely something to be said for banking on that nostalgia, for the name and what the name at least used to mean. But now they're doing that with the Plus series of stuff. Let's go back at the chat because I've seen it's kind of been flying here. Yeah, Brian's saying everything that I'm going to say because I've seen this video before, and I'm picking when to say it, but the install base, I think, is not making it worth it for them, which is a shame, though. Honestly, I think at least with the Atari 50 DLC, you should take that hit because these are your most dedicated fans. And if you don't even release your own Atari DLC on your console, that is embarrassing. Yes, Nintendo does not give a shit about you. They don't. But they know that their money comes from making polished, at least their first party stuff, a polished product. So they make a good product because that's how they get your money. 130 on a console and compatibility is not what they claim it is. And yes, a lot of people in the Intellivision community are really hoping that Atari comes out with an Intellivision Plus. I have said and will continue to say that the reason to have an Intellivision I used to say 2024, now I'll say 2025, is the homebrew community. There are fantastic games. Like if you told me, you can only have the original 125 or you can only have the homebrew games, I wouldn't even blink. I would take the homebrew games. So Cyrus says, I find this whole thing baffling. So just so I understand, they promised a while back that the DLC was coming to VCS and was free. Then all of a sudden, way later, said it was not possible. Pretty much. I do not recall them saying it would be free. They may have, but I do know they said that it was coming to the VCS, and now they're saying, well, we're not really set up to do that. How are you not set up to do that? This is your platform. And yeah, it's Wade inherited the VCS, and never cared about it. Yeah, that is, I think, pretty clear. Okay. 2600 Jag says, when are you getting your VCS? He says, apparently never. And 2600 Jag says, you will like it. You might. It's a fun little box, and you could just completely forget the Atari thing, make it by today's standards, an underpowered Steam box. It looks sexy. An underpowered Steam box. You can throw emulators on there, play your Atari games on there. Like there's still reasons to get it. One of the reasons to get it is not new Atari DLC, unfortunately. So Ballistic Coffee says, the hardcore fans who buy everything like I do should be treated right. there is a problem with that. I agree. I think you in particular, Brian, should be getting, like, you should have gotten a 7800 plus one of those big packages that they sent out to content creators, because you are pro Atari. You look for that silver lining in every bad story. You are a diehard fan. The reason I think you don't is because you buy everything. They can count on you for that paycheck. They don't have to send you anything. They know you're getting it anyway. Okay, so Atari's customer support is abysmal. They are, I can't imagine what it's like for the VCS. I know they've got a Discord channel, and that's obviously where this announcement was first seen. But their customer support and their quality control, honestly, are their biggest flaws. If you watch back our podcast from last Tuesday night, we talked about that. So it depends on who you're asking. For me, I would say homebrews. I like the new games. I also love the recharge games, though. Hopefully I don't have to live in a world where I can only have one or the other. And 2600 Jag said they said free. At the very least, if they said free and now they're saying it's not going to be on the VCS, their customer service, you should be able to email them and say, you know, I've got it on the Switch or I've got it on the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever. And they should send you a free download code to get it. That's my thoughts. Okay. So scroll down. Yeah. That's another option. They could refund people. But either way, if they're not going to just take the hit and put it on their own damn system, they should compensate people in some way. I agree. Okay, back to Dad is a Joke.
Realistically, to bring back our youth, right? Now, that's why some of these posts from people in the VCS Discord are younger generation people who work at Atari. I just want to talk to you folks for a minute, okay? You don't know how privileged you are to be working for Atari right now. Just the history behind it.
Anybody who grew up in the early 80s, that was the dream. Man, if I could have worked for Atari. Unfortunately, they didn't hire 4-year-olds.
Worked for Atari, I'd be so fucking proud. And, you know, and working as hard as possible and arguing in meetings and making sure that the fan base is supported and that we create this immense, amazing thing. Like, I mean, it's just, you got to understand that it's important how critical this is to a lot of us, right? And don't just, oh, whatever, you know, it's not happening. No, it's not like that. It's frustrating as hell. And I feel like we've been lied. We were told that we'd be getting this DLC way back when, and then nothing happens. Also, there was a drought of games all last year. There was like a few games that got released. So a lot of people were saying, well, what the fuck? Is the VCS dying? Does Atari give a shit? Like, what's...
Atari doesn't give a shit. And that's why I'm saying, you know, in response to people saying, oh, don't bellyache or they won't support it, they're already not giving it the support that you want. So unless you bellyache, they have no motivation to. And I don't think it's bellyaching. I think this is a very valid criticism.
What's going on? Nobody gave us answers. It was completely quiet. Wade was completely quiet. Like, what the fuck? And I don't want to mention what happened to the person who was...
Just want to talk about Jolt 7800 here. Supporting the homebrew community. Obviously, my channel is 99% homebrew. The people who make the homebrew games, they do give a shit. It's a hobby for the vast majority of them. It is not a primary income by any stretch of the imagination. It's passion. And there are some phenomenal things coming out of the homebrew community. So that's that's where I put my money.
Is responsible for is it's not my place, right? But at the same time, somebody was not minding the store. Nobody was looking. Why aren't there any games being put out on the Atari VCS? Why isn't whatever roadmap we put out for? Well, first of all, is there a fucking roadmap for the VCS?
No, I don't think there is, and the reason, like, it's not a priority for them, and I don't think it should be a priority for them, but it should be still on their radar because, like I said, these are the most dedicated fans of the current iteration of Atari.
I doubt it. So, in other words, one person was given the responsibility to support, get indie developers on it, to create games for it. Which, excuse me, I need a coffee. The fuck was I say? You know, a lot of us, and I was part of it, and I promoted it on my show, saying if you're on social media, like fucking Twitter or whatever, and you see a developer showing off his games and stuff, which is really cool. I love watching indie developers create games and showing them off on social media. And a lot of us were sending them, messages and DMs. Hey, would you mind putting your game onto the Atari VCS? It would be great for it. We would love it. Blah blah blah. Some people.
How dedicated a fan base is. They're doing Atari's job for them. They're reaching out to indie developers. Now, how many indie developers care? Probably not many, but you might get a couple. You never know if enough people are like, hey, we really like this and we're fans of the VCS. Could you put it on the VCS? You'll get another 100 sales. One thing that, talking about homebrew again, VCS Store would be a great platform for a lot of these homebrew ROMs. People don't necessarily want physical copies of everything. I do, but a lot of people, they prefer the ROMs. I know Cyrus here, he has been asking, like, Intellivision ROMs. Well, Atari owns Intellivision, which I presume means that they own the right to the exec file and the GROM file. So you put an emulator on the VCS, and then you've got Intellivision homebrews in the VCS store, because I know, like, in particular, Electronite, they've got a lot of original titles that they own, that they don't distribute ROMs for because they're afraid of piracy. But you put it in the VCS store, they get a couple bucks for it. Atari gets a couple bucks for every sale. You could make, it gives that, it fills that store out. It puts more in the store, and it would be a win-win for everybody. And they've already talked about making an emulator for the VCS store. Hopefully, like, I know for a fact that Electronite is talking to Atari. I don't know what they're talking to Atari about. They've got NDAs and all that stuff. But it is my hope that that is a part of it. And it's not just like, hey, we really want it in Intellivision Plus. Cyrus says, sorry, let me go back here a little bit. Yeah. Cyrus says, I'm sorry, I'm just confused. Why did they say it was coming if they had no way to do it? I am convinced that the only reason they're not doing it is because they don't think it's financially viable, because the install base is too low. If they are making this DLC and it's going to cost them however much to, 10 grand to port it over to the VCS OS, which I don't know why it would. If you can put it on Steam, like the VCS is a micro PC. If you can put it on Steam, you can put it on the VCS. I'm not a programmer. They might, you guys in the chat can tell me if there's something different there. But yeah, it is obviously a bunch of BS. I think they just don't think it's financially viable, so they're not going to do it. Especially considering they promised that DLC for free, so they're not making any money. So that's just a $10,000 net loss if it costs $10,000 to port it over. The only way for VCS owners to get the DLC I can think of would be to boycott anything Atari. Again, that VCS community, at least the diehards that would be willing to do that, I don't think it's big enough. So my thought is, like, all you can do is scream, be as vocal as possible. And it is what it is. Heck, 400 Mini was lackluster and all these side projects with My Arcade instead of quality games for VCS. So the thing with that is they're all licensed. Atari doesn't really have to do any work for that. They just collect a check for allowing them to use the Atari logo and brand and properties. So I don't think it's detracting them. I think their focus is specifically on new stuff, not the VCS. And yes, there are 0 homebrews in the Atari 50 collection. That's not what the Atari 50 is about. But the VCS store does have some homebrews on it and could have a heck of a lot more. And that would be a good way to get ROMs out there, especially for companies that don't want their ROMs out, which, of course, BCB said for me. Napoleonic Wars would be great on the VCS, and it'd be totally fine. And yeah, that's what I said earlier, is that at least have a thing where you can email them and say, hey, I own a VCS, here's my code or whatever, send me a download code for the Switch or the PlayStation or whatever. All right. And yes, the diehards are the ones who buy the expensive merch. Okay, so BD Retro Mods is far more technical than I am, so he can say this. Atari VCS uses a version of Linux. Steam OS is a version of Linux, and I believe the Atari 50th can be played on a Steam deck. So both being Linux-based, it shouldn't have been too hard to do it. Yeah, that's what I thought. There should be no problem doing this. Maybe a little bit of money just to wrap it, but it's all right. And yeah, as Casey says, we forgive you. We're happy you're here anyway, Casey. Okay.
People didn't give a shit. Some people were genuinely interested, and some people got in contact with this person to get their game out, but nothing. Like, all that work we did as fans to push the mandate for the VCS, and nothing happened.
Atari, across all platforms, has relied so heavily on its fan base to take care of its customer support, to take care of its upgrades. The beta firmware update for the 2600 Plus was posted on Atari Age, and it's fan driven. And from the sounds of it, a lot of outreach for the VCS, fan driven. When you've got fans that dedicated, please don't screw them over.
It's, oh my God, it's brutal how frustrating this is. I don't get it. Honestly, I don't get it. Why are we getting fucked over by Atari? We've done so much. Like, for me, I've been promoting retro gaming and Atari for a couple of years now, and this is how Atari, and I've never asked anything back from Atari. Never charged them for promoting, nothing. It's just because of the love I have for Atari. And they do this to us? Really? Come on.
There is something to be said for, like, when I talked about the 7800 Plus, my first reaction to it, I said the line, by all means, take advantage of my nostalgia. Or sorry, um, you know, cater to my nostalgia, but don't take advantage of it. Um, don't take it for granted. And this is like, you can feel his heart breaking here, which is it sucks. It sucks when you support something and defend it, um, and something like this happens. So ECDHE says the fact both SteamOS and the VCSROS are Linux-based doesn't mean anything. It's a dev kit on top of that which matters. Yeah, I think what I'm saying though is that it's not a technical problem. I think it is a matter of money. And BCB is an unpaid Atari employee, and so his dad is a joke. Yeah, and that hurts. And EC follows up with his understandings that the VCS is using a Unity, which is very common modern SDK. He has zero idea how much it would cost to migrate. Okay, so 2600 Jag, who is a VCS, is obviously very involved with the VCS. I got a message from Atari saying the DLC was coming for free, but they said I needed to upgrade my storage to get the update. So I spent a lot of money upgrading my storage, and now they said it's over. Yeah, like that's, if they had said prior to this that, okay, you know, we're not going to be supporting it as much, we'll put what we can on there, and then this came out, fine. But it sounds like they were really, especially telling people you're going to get it for free. Because I remember the first time I actually got into my VCS, again, we're not going to get into that, but the first time I got in, I had already bought the Atari 50 collection on the Switch, and I like it. And I saw it there in the store, and I was like, oh, I should get it on this, because then I could play with the classic joystick. And it was so expensive. And I was just like, well, okay, now I'm not going to pay $60 for it. And so BCB did mention that that DLC wasn't even mentioned when the thing first went up. But announcing to people that you're going to get the DLC for free, that probably sold some copies. So they bought it because, oh, I know I'm going to be getting the DLC for free, and now you do this. That's brutal. Brian's Man Cave says, with Atari, I think of the scene in Spaceballs where Yogurt talks about all the products with Spaceballs on it. Yes. Yeah, because you can get Atari the energy drink, you can get Atari the decanter, you can get Atari coffee beans. It's I can't blame them for that. If somebody's willing, if I own a property and somebody's willing to give me money, and I am not the most profitable company in the world, so money's not bad. So if somebody's willing to give me money just to put my name on their stuff, if I was in Atari's position, I can't say I wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's a matter of return on investment because of the install base. Okay. Okay. Update on my stance. This is BCB. I had a realization earlier. I am also grateful for the 5+ years of joy the VCS has brought me so far. And it has 200 games, more than any other console outside the 2600. So I feel us fans need to be grateful. You can be grateful and still criticize. I think this is a slap in the face, especially considering what was promised. My general, like I mentioned earlier, my general thought is if you release a console, you should support it for 5 years. It has been 4 years since this thing's been released. So give it another year and put the DLC on it. Or compensate people because you promised them they'd get it for free.
This is just bullshit at the highest degree. And please don't give us the excuse of technical difficulties, right? The U.S. put a man on the fucking moon. You know how many technical difficulties they had? You know how many technical difficulties they had to sit there for months stewing over and trying to figure out? And
This, I think, is the funniest part of the video, and I get what he's saying. NASA had almost limitless funds and former Nazi scientists. And if Atari had that, I'm sure they'd make the VCS awesome and be able to put anything on it. They'd fit, the newest, biggest games on the VCS. Atari does not have unlimited funds. They need to be careful. They are still a small video game company. And so, yeah, no problem is not solvable, but it's money.
they fucking did it, right? Where's that innovation that Nolan keeps on talking about? Where is that?
I may piss people off with this. Atari has not been innovative, really, for like 40 years. The VCS wasn't innovative. It was a cool little quirky fun thing. And it still is. It is not like they've discontinued making them. They stopped making new ones in, I think, 2022. Actually, do I have no, it keeps me on that tab here. Yeah, December 19th, 2022. Atari calls it quits on the Atari VCS. It's the name of the article here. Now, that doesn't mean they stopped supporting it. Obviously not. But they stopped making new ones because it wasn't selling well enough. But it wasn't innovative. The Plus line of things, they're not innovative. The Plus games are mostly homebrews that have just been rebranded with the proper titles or re-releases of older games, which is fine. They don't have to be innovative. The Plus systems are not innovative. Retron's been doing those for years. They are quality made. They're good products. I'm happy to have my 2600 Plus and my 7800 Plus. But Atari has not been innovative for a very long time. Okay, so fun fact, they did fake the moon landing. However, they hired Stanley Kubrick to film it, and he was such a stickler for detail that he insisted on filming on location. Okay, so Cyrus says, realistically, this does suck and they need to make it right, but it's not a deal breaker. For me, I would agree. I think it's embarrassing for Atari, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. I'm still enjoying their products and I'm still willing to be a customer. They just need to fix this or try to. I agree. This is bad PR for them. Very bad PR. Okay. Fun fact, the 2600 Plus also lets you pause 2600 games with the black and white switch. However, that was also possible way back in the day. There are a lot of original Atari 2600 games that you can pause. So no, not innovative.
Oh, it's just because the Atari VCS has such fucking great potential. There's so much potential in the system. Controllers, different types of games, online stuff. It's just, there's so much potential.
I might piss people off. I don't think it has any more potential really than any other video game system. Maybe more potential in that they're smaller and they have more room to grow. I certainly on the Facebook groups, I lurk on the VCS Facebook group. I don't really comment there. Not because they're not great people, but just because I don't really have anything to say. And there was definitely people, the VCS had so much potential. It still does. Atari just doesn't know what to do with it. Sure, it's a platform. I'm not in the best position to say what that potential would be. but certainly if VCS fans feel that way. BCB says the potential it has is bringing spotlight to indie games and devs and cross-promoting for Atari's own products. Fair enough. At the same time, a lot of those little indie games I get from the Nintendo Switch store or Xbox store, the PlayStation store, or really Steam has become the champion of those indie games. There's lots of places for it. I don't see the VCS being unique in that regard, but that doesn't mean it doesn't and didn't have potential.
And don't get me started on Atari, the Atari OS. That thing needs such help, it's not even funny to get it to where modern consoles should be. But why is it just sitting there floundering like shit?
Again, because it's not a priority. It's not a priority for Atari. It's not a financial gain for them. Their focus is on the more retro stuff now. Tolbat says he never saw a reason to buy a VCS, and Atari's behavior doesn't make him feel warm and fuzzy. As a little micro PC, like I said, it looks sexy. That classic controller is cool. Like, there are reasons to have it, but you kind of have to be nostalgic. There's no reason I can see personally to have it over a Steam box or something like that, aside from the fact that it is Atari. And as an Atari fan, and obviously a dedicated Atari fan like Dad is a Joke, you want to see it succeed. The vast majority of what you can get on the VCS, you can get in other places. Now, granted, like I said, that classic controller, I really like that classic controller, and it does have a paddle on it. It's not the best paddle in the world, but there are certain games that, the Switch is never going to play it right because there is no dial on a Switch controller. Yes, I am not sure why they couldn't put it on GOG. That's weird to me as well.
God, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Let me see what else I can find here. Here's something from one of the supporters. I've been a vocal supporter of the Atari VCS since its launch. I find it very disappointing that Atari has not done more with the console. When we see games from Atari, from Digital Eclipse and Night Dice 2 not coming to the Atari VCS, is heartbreaking. It's fucking true. And us VCS fans have been totally loyal and patient, and our patience has finally fucking run out. Right?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, you can't expect an indie developer to spend the resources to port to a system that has such a small install base. But when Atari releases stuff, they should be putting it on their system. And yeah, that's going to have a cost to it, but either put it on that system or tell people you're no longer supporting that system. Don't string them along. And like I said, I firmly believe that they owe the VCS at least one more year of proper support. That whole, consoles should be supported for 5 years. And then afterwards, make sure that online store stays around for a while. And then certainly anything on it that people have downloaded, when you do finally shut that store on, make sure it all works offline. I know their games work offline, but treat the people who supported you guys right, especially considering a solid 50% of them paid from that crowdfunding campaign, and that was a lot of money. I got mine for cheap. That is a Joke did not get his for cheap, and I think that's why he is so hurt by this. And a lot of people probably feel the same way.
What about all the machines they sold at Black Friday? Right? All these people who bought into it at a huge discount compared to us, and then they hear this news.
It sucks. I did see one person in the comment already said that they're returning theirs, which means that they probably got it over this last holiday season. Keep in mind that they're fire sales. They're trying to get the rest of their stock just out. I don't think they really care about supporting it. Let's scroll up here. Yeah, that's a problem. And when you talk about the 200 games, how many of them can you only get on VCS? I don't know what the actual number is, but it can't be high. Why bother with the VCS? Might as well sell on other platforms. Okay. So if you've heard that, that's great. But that's my firm position. They should be supporting for at least another year, and that support should include everything possible that they actually release. I just feel that way. That may not be feasible, but I'm not going to go this far yet. A lot of people give this current iteration of Atari crap for not being Atari. Atari is a brand. If you're saying, oh, it's got to be Nolan Bushnell's Atari, well, then the 2600, like Nolan Bushnell sold the company in order to make the 2600. He stayed on, but Atari is a brand, and so despite the fact that there is no real direct, like nobody involved with Atari back then is involved with Atari now. It's Atari. It may not be your Atari, but it is Atari. Okay, so Atari's statement mentions the studio's proprietary development tools, which makes me think that they have their own cross-platform ENV, which works for many systems, but not the VCS. So we're talking about Digital Eclipse. Then how did they put the original Atari 50 on the VCS? Where is that tool? Is that tooling to port it? You would think that it's no different for the DLC. You would think. Again, I'm not a programmer. I could be talking out my ass, but it is what it is. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I told you, all opinions are welcome in the chat. No, Mike, it's not Atari to me. Since the gaming division left, the brand died. The last system was given to us. They just bought the name from a defunct company. They need to earn being real Atari. Sure, to me, Atari is a brand, and that brand has been thinned out so much over the course of my lifetime. The last time I really felt like Atari was the Jaguar. But the brand coming back, I think has been good for Atari fans in general. This VCS bullshit notwithstanding, I like my Plus consoles. I like a lot of what they're doing, but they leave a lot to be desired in some areas as well. But that is totally fair. And yes, I take it that way. There's no anger towards anybody here. We're all friends. It's all good. Okay. And so Digital Eclipse may have ported Atari 50 by hand without using the cross-platform tool. Possible. I don't know. Atari 7800. That is all. When I was a kid, I never knew about the 7800. I was a 2600 kid, and then I remember I never knew about the 5200. I never knew about the 7800. I knew about Atari computers, And then I remember the ads for the Lynx, and I remember the ad campaign for the Jaguar. But again, I didn't know anybody who had either of those. So for me, 2,600 all the way. Okay.
Again, you're stabbing new customers in the back now. Oh, fuck's sakes. Okay, here's another one. I gotta zoom into this one here. Well, think it's all bull. We all have problems, but we're not blaming the person who was responsible for that. I blame Atari, and so do I. You guys sold us these machines. It's been wretched with what? It's been a wretched experience from many and damn expensive for living outside the U.S. Like I said, we stuck with it through all the broken promises, all the glitches, and everything else. Then the DLC thing for many is the last straw and broke the camel's back, which is exactly what happened to me. I mean, that's how I felt. I felt like it's like, you know what? You're worth nothing.
It hurts. My guess is this is going to sting for Dad as a joke for a while. 2 weeks from now, he'll be singing Atari's praises again. But I do believe that this needs to be resolved. I believe it is indicative of how little Atari cares about the VCS. 100%. Atari is mostly riding on nostalgia. And one of the things that we talked about in our very first Retro Rewind podcast was how there is really, that only goes so far. Your clientele for nostalgia, Atari nostalgia, is literally dying out. Now, hopefully I got another 40 years in me, but not everybody does. And that community is not getting any younger. So I do think if Atari really wants a future, and this isn't just a, hey, we're going to make our money for 10 years and get out, that they need to look to the future. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not an executive. Okay. Golbat mowed yards all summer to buy a Lynx. I love the Lynx now. I've got nearly a complete collection. It is a fantastic portable system. But I play them all on my analog pocket now. Because I always have to sit by an outlet to play my Lynx because there's no way I'm wasting all the batteries on that. BCB says, well, at least now I can start to be a bit more cynical on my channel. That should get some views. You don't have to be cynical. Just be realistic. I have always said, and this annoys some people, fans of things don't want to hear any criticism, but things don't get better unless you're critical. You can be critical about the things you love. You should not do it as clickbait. You should not do it just for views. I don't think that's good. But toxic negativity is definitely bad. Toxic positivity is also equally as bad. Because, like I said earlier, these companies don't give a crap about you. They give a crap about money. Now, in a perfect world, making money means making a good product, but it doesn't always mean that. So, be positive. Don't be blindly positive. Okay, some praise for the Lynx. The Lynx was great. BCB says, I thought about this recently. We Atari fans really are going to die out. Eventually, hopefully not for a while, but eventually. They've got about 30 more years of sales, probably. Yes and no. Because at a certain, there's a sweet spot for nostalgia purchasing. And I think that sweet spot is between kind of 40 and 60. And then after that, you kind of get to a point where it's like, it's just stuff. I don't need more stuff. And so even though hopefully at age 60, you still got 20, maybe 30 years left, you're not buying as much. You might still buy some, but you're going to see a steep decline. Like the fans don't literally need to die for Atari to start suffering by banking solely on nostalgia. They do. They definitely have another 10 years. But also it's finding trends. Like the mini consoles were really big for a while. They're not so much anymore. Trends come and go. I just hope that, like, because I love Atari. And I think this iteration of Atari is doing some great things. But it is what it is. I want them to do well. Okay, so if you want views, get into drama. Yeah, it's worked for worked for a lot of people. Like I said, I don't seek it out, but I don't hide from it. BCB tries not to be toxically positive, but he enjoys covering Atari. I appreciate that about your channel. Like, you can tell that you are genuinely passionate about it. All right. Can you please give me a one-sentence summary of Deception? I'll hang up and listen to your response. Okay, so the deception is from the title here. How Atari deceived their loyal fan base and severely upset retro gamers everywhere. And that's what we're responding to. But the deception is that the Atari 50 DLC was promised to VCS owners for free, and now they're being told it's not even coming to the VCS. That's a one-sentence response. Okay. Yeah, and Atari's never going to produce that AAA Assassin's Creed or whatever, but just something that really, like a really fun, addictive pick up and play. That's the type of stuff, and they need to have several of those and continue. The Recharge series is a great start. Okay, so there is hope. Yes, there will always be Atari fans. It's just, will there be enough Atari fans to justify continuing to produce Atari stuff? I don't know. Okay, scan. Okay, let's get back to the video. We're almost done.
Who are we? Okay, so blah blah blah. I blame Atari for allowing to go on all year when it should have been should have put the guy on leave or another task. The person who was responsible, who probably got overwhelmed with all the work that he had to do. Anyway, and assign the task to get somebody else on the job for the Atari VCS. Bad leadership, bad customer relations, and I'll probably get banned or warned for even saying this, because this is Discord and is like cancellation essential. Can't use hurty words or cause hurty feelings. Well, in the real world, that's no way to run a company or manage a game console, which I wholeheartedly agree. 100% agree with what this person said.
With anything you do, like, I've had people post video, especially there was an incident in 2023 where I posted a video that was it was the first video on my channel that kind of blew up in a negative way. And there was a lot of nasty stuff said about me. And you got to have a tough skin. You got to be able to listen to it. And some of it's going to be nonsense. A lot of it may be nonsense. But if you can get a kernel of valid criticism from it, then it's valuable, and you should listen to it. And that's what I try to do. I really hope that they make good utilization out of the Intellivision property, because the previous owner certainly didn't. Okay.
guys. I mean,
I will just mention this is Dad is a Joke Retro Rocking Gamer. Absolutely check him out. He does a weekly weekend report every Sunday. Look at his previous stuff. Absolutely full of VCS information, Atari information in general. He covers it all. He's very level-headed. I find generally, obviously, he's a little upset in this video, but absolutely check out. Dad is a Joke Retro Rockin' Gamer. I've actually linked, or I've got the link to this video in the description. So go check that out. Give him a like, give him a subscribe, all that fun stuff.
like even wearing this is pissing me off. I'm just wearing it because it's warm. But anyway, Atari's got to get their shit together, plain and simple. They've got to. If you made it this far with me, please, guys, let's make some comments in this feed. If there's enough comments and stuff, because I don't know if Atari feels like I'm small potatoes and they want, I'm not getting any devices to review or whatever. That's fine. I don't care. And I don't have the money to go run out and buy everything. So
I'm in the same boat. That said, I do think Atari cares about the publicity they get from small channels because they don't really get it from big channels. Maybe, for the big announcement, like, oh, the 2600 Plus is coming out, that gets announcement. But as far as their customer relations go, they're terrible. They have been terrible for a very long time. Regardless of whether or not this happened, it was dealt with very poorly. I can agree with that 100%. That is a joke. Apparently, Brian's Man Cave wouldn't have a channel if it wasn't for him. Yes, they're both, like I said, they're both Ontario guys here, as am I. And Casey says, we owe him a thank you then, Brian. I agree. Yeah, although I've had better experiences with Atari Age, but certainly a lot of people have not had great Atari Age customer service. Well, especially with that last chance sale, which some people still haven't gotten their games. Absolutely ridiculous. But what I was saying is that it's really, if Atari could improve in one regard, it has to be their customer service. And if something like this was going to happen, it should have been released in a better way than just, hey guys on the Discord, sorry, this is going to happen. As soon as they knew it wasn't going to happen, they should have told people. As soon as that happened, they should have already had a plan in place to make up for the promise that the DLC would be free. And absolutely, people should make noise about this. And don't worry about, oh, if we make noise, they're going to think that the VCS isn't worth it. Because honestly, they already don't think that. So I think people should make some noise.
let's do this. Please let your feelings known. And you probably fucking let your feelings known in Reddit, Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, and everything. Let's do it here. If I get enough people, I'm going to make this known directly to Atari and show them, listen, you heard us. How can we trust you next time? Right? If your loyal fan base stops buying stuff, then how are you going to survive? Anyways, folks, that's it. Angry Dad kind of popped out.
Okay. So I agree with him. Let Atari know. Go to his video, comment on his video, comment on this one. That is a joke. If you're watching, or at any point in time, if you're watching, link, show Atari this one too. I'm sure there'll be lots of comments. There's certainly loads in the chat. Hopefully the live chat stays on so that you can see it watching it back. Lots of great points here. So let me actually go through. Yeah, Brian's Man Cave is still waiting on their stuff from Atari Age. Let's see here. So is Casey. The problem is Atari is only doing that right now, a few days too late. Yeah. They need to be better at the customer service. Like, in all honesty, I think people would understand if just their delivery of this stuff was better. And Albert just finished moving apparently, so the game should come soon. And yes, I have never. Atari Age always delivers, in my experience. It's never been particularly quick, but at this point, like almost 2 years, it's ridiculous, or a year and a half. So you are absolutely welcome. Yes, Dad is a Joke, Retro Rockin' Gamer. Link in the description. Please check him out. Check out his other videos too. Show him your support, because honestly, going online and voicing this, trust me, I have experienced it from the Atari community. I've experienced it from the Intellivision community. Any criticism that you have, la 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 la, and people posting that you're an idiot and you're jerk, and I'm sure there'll be some in the comments here. There hasn't been any in the live chat, thankfully. There's a backlash, but some things need to be said, and I'm very glad that he said it. Thank you very much, Casey. Absolutely not needed, but I appreciate it very much. BCB, you would be an excellent customer service manager. It would be a great fifth job for you. I think that would be great. Yeah, it's closer to a year and a half, but still, it's unacceptable. Move or no move, it needed to be done. Yes, and he was actually he was one for both of us, and he was nominated again this previous year. Thank you very much, Brian. Let's see. I did not see that. I'm going to have to go and go check that out. Brother Blue says, also don't reward Atari by rebuying Atari 50 in the DLC somewhere else if you bought it already on the VCS. Contact their customer support and tell them how pissed you are and get a code for another system at least. Don't pay for it. Very cool. All right. So there's the last comment I'm going to bring up. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's late on a Sunday night. If you're a Bills fan, I'm very sorry. I waited till after the football game. I live in an area where there are a lot of Bills fans, so there's a lot of crying tonight. But I appreciate you joining me. I really appreciate Dad is a Joke, Retro Rockin' Gamer. Again, please go check out his channel. And if you like what you see, give him a like and a subscribe. That means a hell of a lot to somebody who's kind of putting it out there like this. But I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for all the participation in the chat, and have an absolutely great week. We'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.